it was just
Mm.
excuses. And I was like, I need to get it and then do something. And I think they were like, my mom and my boyfriend were like a huge part of me actually like getting up and being like, right. They literally sat me down and they were like, go and write a song right now. Like it was that dramatic. I was like, okay. I've always loved Latin music. I've always listened to Latin music my whole life, at home with my family. And I don't know, like I just felt like really inspired. And I want to make a bachata. Like I was listening to bachata at the time. I was like, I want to make a bachata. I was like, oh my God, this video is getting so many views. What the hell?
Mm.
And then it was for Call Me by Your Name. It was actually because one of my family members was like, "Oh, Sophie, like, your bachata, like, it's so good. Like, you should post that online." And I was like, "I have for the past year." I don't think we need so much production. So obviously, those are obstacles because you're working with people, you're working with producers. You don't want to let anyone down,
Mm.
but you don't want to like but then you have to do what's best for the song and like you can't sacrifice the song for the sake of like people pleasing. Definitely trust your gut. There's been situations that I've been in where like my gut has been telling me like don't trust that person or don't go
Mm.
for this, but because of kind of like sometimes you can feel like that desperation of like I want my dream to happen, I want this to happen, and you ignore red flags and you just hope for the best and you're like I'll deal with it
Yeah.
later. Like no, deal with it now.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Middle Minuscule. We have another awesome guest today. We have Sophie Castillo. She's a Latin indie artist based in the UK. And then she recently came out with her new single, 3 a.m., which came out literally last week. So I'm really excited to talk about that. And then she has over 100K million listeners on Spotify. So go listen to her music. But with that being said, Sophie, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hi guys, and hello Andrea. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to to do this interview. So thank you for inviting me.
No, no problem. Like I said before, like the honor is mine. Like having an artist, singer, like just being in my podcast is just amazing. So thank you for that. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. It's my
Um,
pleasure.
I want to start with like how did you begin your journey in becoming a an artist, a Latin indie artist? Like how was that process, the experiences, moments that kind of led you to what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been singing ever since I was little, like a
Okay.
kid. I used to do musical theater, so I got like a
Wow.
lot of experience with like singing and training in singing and vocals since I
Mm.
was little. It's always been like a passion of mine since I was really, really young. Always knew I wanted to be a singer, so I'm glad that I'm doing
Wow.
that now. And basically I just yeah, when I was about 15, I started like going to a studio and writing and getting my songs produced. And then when I was about like 21, I was like, I had a bit of time out from music while I was at uni. And I was like, look, it's now or never. I gotta
Mm.
really push forward. And I really had no music knowledge in terms of like business, in terms of I didn't have any contacts. And I think that's something that like I allowed to stop myself for so long, just not knowing like how to approach being a singer or how to release a song. I just knew how to sing and how to write. So I like just basically just did some research and like figured it out. And then I started making my so this was like in the first lockdown and I
Okay.
started like making my own demos. So I made my first demo and that was the first song that I released. So I made the demo, sent it to a producer that I actually went to school with, and he was like,
Mm.
"Oh, I'm producing." And I was like, "Oh, perfect." So sent that to him and he like brought the song to life, like and then that was my first release. And then same with the
Wow.
second and third and fourth. And from there onwards, I've just been trying to be more and more consistent. And like I always knew I wanted to bring in my heritage in some way to my music. So I
Mm.
started with a little bit. And then as I got more comfortable with like writing in Spanish and yeah, just more comfortable in general with like writing and releasing, then I started to bring in more of like more Spanish and more
Mm.
Latin influences in the music.
Ooh, okay. You mentioned how you kind of took a break from music. How what was that like? What was going in between there, where and in between there, and then like how did you shift that mindset? Because you said it's now or never. So what
Yeah.
conversations were you having? What were you doing that kind of pushed you to say now or never and then actually start
Yeah.
being consistent with it?
So while I was at uni, like I did like a few gigs, but I was doing
Mm,
kind of like a different style of music, and what I kind of wanted to like always sing with a band, and my challenge was like not being able to find a band to like play live gigs with and
mm.
stuff. And so I was still always like singing, and
Oh, okay.
writing and stuff. I just wasn't so like, right, I'm gonna set up a plan. And then I think like, in the lockdown, everyone kind of had time to think and time to
Yeah.
reflect and dwell. And I was with my family, I was with my boyfriend, and I was kind of having a little bit of like a moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm 21, which I know is literally so young. But like I was like, I'm 21 and I feel like I haven't done anything. Like I haven't fulfilled my dream. I haven't even taken steps towards fulfilling my
Mm.
dream. And like I'm disappointed that I haven't like I've tried, but then I've like not really, really gone for it out of fear and out of like anxiety and fear of failure. But they kind of sat me down and they were like, look, just like basically stop complaining and just do something. That's the kind of tough love that you need in those situations, because I was like excusing myself and like, oh, but I don't have this, but I don't have any contacts, I don't have anyone in the industry who I know, my family don't have ties to music, like, and it was just
Mm.
excuses. And I was like, I need to get it and then do something. And I think they were like, my mom and my boyfriend were like a huge part of me actually like getting up and being like, right, they literally sat me down and they were like, go and write a song right now. Like it was that dramatic. I was like, okay. They were like, great start. And it's true, like you just have to start, and then you gotta start somewhere. It's not gonna be perfect, but
Yeah.
gotta keep going. Like starting is the hardest bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's super important, and that's the starting part is what keeps us, what holds us back a lot. And then I even like
Yeah.
I recently did an episode where we were talking about self-esteem and how that's a very important thing because you mentioned how, all these like anxiety, the disappointment of like not being where you wish you were been or starting the things that you wish you would have started. So, building that up, like just starting is like that start of starting your writing a song. It's like, okay, now I did this. If I did this, I could do
Yeah.
this, and it creates a whole momentum. And of course, there's gonna be ups and downs, but that's a start. I want
Yeah.
to ask
So true.
with sorry, yeah, you.
Sorry, no, I was just saying, yeah, I was like, yeah, no,
I
so true. Totally agree.
yeah. You mentioned also like you didn't have the contacts, you didn't know how to like um do the whole production or produce a song or really releasing it. How is that? And maybe we could talk about like the first gen experience. Are you first? I should ask. Are you like? Do you consider yourself first gen?
Yeah, I was born here in London, but then my mum and dad, they moved to the UK first, and then I was born here.
And you were born
So
here.
that's first gen, isn't it? I think that's like,
Yeah, I think it
is it?
just depends, but it's
Yeah.
as long as you have like the first experiences, like
Yeah, I
first,
feel
it's
like
like
there's
considered first gen.
yeah, I feel like there's different definitions, and I feel like in the US they use it more than in the UK. Like we'll just like,
Okay.
oh yeah, the Latino community. I don't know, like I've like with my friends,
Mm,
we've never specifically called ourselves like first or
first
second
gen.
generation. So I'm not sure of
Mm.
the exact definitions, but
Yeah,
like a lot of us here were born here, but our parents moved here
move there.
when they were like adults, and then we were born here.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, because it's a bit different. I mean, that could probably be another episode, but just
Yeah.
like to, in this context, it will be like the first experiences that you had
Yeah.
from like family members. So for you, how is that? How like what were some influences or even like obstacles that you kind of have to like start breaking, limiting beliefs in this journey?
I think coming from, my parents being immigrants in the UK, there is a Latin community 100%, and it's like ever growing and thriving. But I guess it was like, it's obviously there's so many challenges that come with being an immigrant and building a life from scratch and being
Yeah.
significantly far away from home, and all of your family. So as a child of an immigrant from Latin America, it can be, you can still feel that kind of loneliness. Like I know I just went back to Colombia and I've come back
Mm.
to London and I'm like, wow, like my family literally are all over there. Like it's basically just me and my mom here. And it gets a bit sad
Oh,
sometimes. So I think, not having your family around you to also like kind of hustle for you, because I feel like families a lot of the time, like when they can see like one of the young kids is like doing something, they're all like,
mhm.
talking about
Push.
it, they're all pushing it. And I think
Hmm.
it's hard when you're so far away from them. And then also just, having like, it just money as well, like not coming from like an established financial background or like a wealthy financial background. Money, like music is very expensive, and like to produce your songs is expensive, and to do everything in music is expensive. So sometimes I was like, how as a young person, I was like, how am I going to pay for this? And like, how am I going to, yeah, how am I going to cover that cost?
Yeah.
How am I going to, and like I have so many ideas, and it's like it was frustrating when I couldn't execute them because of money. But I was very lucky that like I had the support from my family who were here. Like my uncle is like who's always been super supportive. My uncle and his husband have been super supportive since I was a kid. Like they were,
No.
paying for me to do like drama classes and stuff, and like helping with my mom, because my mom was a single mom. So like helping my mom, and they're like my dads. So it was really lovely for them to support me. And I'm so having, whilst I did have obviously some struggles with in terms of like doing music financially, and just not having like the contacts in the industry or a family friend who knows a friend or any of
Yeah.
that stuff, I still had like my close family who were helping me, and my uncles who were helping me like with the drama classes, and like helping me cover studio when I was like really little, well,
Mhm.
not really little, when I was younger and I was going to the studio. So there's like two sides of the coin. There's the positive, and then there's the stuff that's like the challenges, but then there's also a lot of positives in the experience too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what were with like personal, yeah, like personal conversations that you were having during this time when you were just getting started? Like obstacles, like not obstacles, like limiting beliefs that you had that kind of like either come
Yeah.
up from first gen experience or just like you're growing up, and then like how have you transformed them into like a positive and growing, like a growing and abundant mindset?
I think like, I had the limited belief of, basically fearing failure. And I think everybody has that. And you think like, oh, is it going to be me? Why is it going to be me? How am I going to be successful? What makes me different enough to be like
Oof,
successful?
yeah,
It's just something that I think like I wouldn't even say it's just me who thinks that. I think everybody feels like that in their respective careers,
yeah.
in their lives in so many different ways. So that was a limited belief. And then also thinking, oh, I can't do it if I don't have like a friend of a friend or a family friend, or because like that is something that helps a lot of artists, like knowing someone or having some kind of and
A
stuff,
connection, yeah.
a connection. And like literally, I think my limiting belief was like I can't start from complete zero. um
Mm,
and but then that was wrong, and the way I kind of overcame that was literally by just trying. And I think it's better to fail having tried. I know it's really cliche, but like it is better
it's
to
true.
fail having tried than to not even try at all. I think a lot of people set those, like they tell themselves like, oh well, like I didn't really want it anyway, or like I don't even really want to be famous, or I don't want to be a huge superstar. But like, which could be true, some people aren't looking for those aspects, but then like you need to like evaluate how true is that though. And there's nothing wrong with wanting those things, and if you
Hmm.
want them, like go and try and get them, because I think the experiences you have on the way, whether you make it to that point or not, are always going to be like great life experiences, and you'll be living your life in like a fun and
Yeah.
interesting way. Yeah.
Ooh. And then what were like when you started decided like, oh, I'm gonna be consistent with making music, what steps were you taking? What were like maybe experiences that you remember like, oh yeah, this is how I started, maybe it failed, but then I learned this, or lessons from that part of your journey.
Yeah. I think like I made so many mistakes in like music business. There were things that I didn't know about, like mixing and mastering songs as well in terms of production. Like that stuff is
Mm.
so like understanding what does a mixing engineer do. I didn't even know that those like existed at the time. I didn't know you had to mix and master songs, but then obviously when I worked with the first producer, he mixed and mastered, so he told me he would do that and he explained that to me, which was really
Mm.
nice. So you're really like learning as you go along and researching as you go along. So just silly examples like that. Also learning about music business, because obviously in the industry, and I'm sure in many professions, there's always people who are dishonest, people who unfortunately don't have good intentions. And
Yeah.
as an artist who put so much love it, artists put so much love into their craft and they're focused on the creativity, but because when you're independent you have to wear so many hats. You have to manage yourself, you have to pitch yourself, you have to make the music. So a lot of us lack music business knowledge, which means that other people can take advantage of us. So of course, like every artist at an early stage, I made mistakes with that, was taken advantage of in terms of like
Yeah.
business or money and stuff like that. However, I literally don't even look back badly at those situations, because every single time it happened, I just kept faith, prayed that I would get out of the situation, and God always brought me out of the situation, and I was always able to like recoup whatever I'd lost, or like leave unharmed and unscathed. And
Yeah.
I just kept faith that I was like, because I was going in with good intentions and my heart was pure in the situation, I feel like
Mm.
I was put in those situations to learn the lesson, but I wasn't punished for my mistakes or my lack of knowledge. I just
Mm.
was there to learn, but then I was also there to get out and like grow beyond that, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I've made so many silly mistakes, but they're good mistakes, because now I know much more, especially in the past. Even in the past year, I've learned so much and had so many situations, but I've just learned so many lessons that now I feel like I'm in a really good place in terms of um, being able to protect myself and
Mm.
know what to do. But I, of course, have so much more to learn. That I'll always be learning.
No, for sure. And I think that's, yeah, that's for everybody. Everybody's always learning and trying to figure things out as well.
Yeah.
Um, with your music, how, I mean, you mentioned that you wrote a song, like your family pushing you to write a song, but then the first song that you came out with, which was, I believe, Love Me That Way.
Yeah.
So how was that experience writing your first song and then releasing it? Because I was in 2020. How was that?
Yeah. Oh, that was interesting, because for ages, like I had only ever experienced like going to a studio. Like I would always come with the lyrics and the melodies, and then the producer would like build around the lyrics and melodies.
Mm.
And then so that was the only experience I had. I didn't really know if there was another way to make a song. Like I didn't know that people sometimes wrote to YouTube beats or had splice
Mm.
and samples. Like I had no idea of that. So
Yeah.
I was like, I really need to but I know about GarageBand. So I was like, I need to get GarageBand. So I was like, I need an Apple Mac. But I
Mm.
was like, how am I going to pay for an Apple Mac? So then I found a way to like pay for it monthly in installments. So I got the Apple Mac, I got GarageBand, and then I was like, right, let me just, use the keyboard on my on my laptop to like play the piano and do
Mm.
like the drums, or like get a drum loop or something from GarageBand. And then like I just built the song. But it was a really nice experience, because I basically just like threw myself in the deep end and then just figured it out. But which was obviously really daunting, but also amazing, because then I fell in love with the process of writing
Mm.
songs in that way, and realized how much I love writing. And also I like showed myself that when I feel inspired, I can write something so quickly and so naturally, and it feels like, you know, it just feels really nice. Like, and I just gave myself the space and time to just write, and I came up with like a really beautiful melody, and then I just felt proud of myself, and I gave myself the green light like that, and show
Mm.
myself that I can do it if I want to. I just have to try, essentially.
Yeah, were you having like any, like you could say, like obstacles or like self-doubt or even that imposter syndrome when in that whole in any in that process of writing your first song? And if you did, like, what were the conversations that you're having in order to give yourself that green light and be like, no, this is actually a beautiful song. People need to
Yeah.
hear it. And it's like, I'm gonna release it.
I think like when I made the demo, I was like, wow, I love this. This is really beautiful. And then I left it for like a bit and I came back and I was like, oh my God, this is rubbish. And then, but
Oh,
I feel
wow.
like this is like, that's me all the time. I'm always like, oh my God, I love this. And then I come back and I'm like, I don't like this. And then I come back and I'm like, actually, I do like it. So that probably is just the part of me that is like has the self-limiting beliefs being like, oh no, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. Then when I sent it to the producer, I didn't know like exactly what I was looking for. I was like, what, I didn't even know what my sound was, so that was
Mm,
an obstacle as well. I was like, what is my sound? Like, I know I want to do something indie, like not too commercial, but commercial enough that it's like, you know, an easily digestible by all audiences and all kinds of listeners. Like, I don't want it to be, um, too niche. I was like, I
mm,
want it to still be like just a song that lots of people can enjoy. And eventually we got to a place, but I think like I had so many moments where I was like panicking and being like, oh, I don't like it, or like, but then in reality it wasn't that I didn't like it, I think it was that I was scared, and
mm,
in reality it was beautiful and I still enjoy listening to the song now. So like, I think all those panic moments where I was like saying that I didn't like it or something weren't actually genuinely me not liking it. I think it was just fear speaking. So those were like a couple of obstacles, but the only way to get out of them was just to keep going. I was like, well, I've
yeah.
decided to make a song now. I'm not going to give up halfway through. So I got to release it. So I got to just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much like how you, the trial and error, because then you get
Yeah.
feedback and then you're like, okay, I learned
Yeah.
this. So it's, yeah, it's super helpful. How about like
Yeah.
how did your writing process or even like producing your songs, how did that evolve now? Because you also have some like bachata songs, like inspired bachata. So those are really good.
Yeah.
Those are in my
Thank
playlist on
you.
repeat. So yeah,
Thank
how is
you.
that how is that process? That evolution of your music?
So in the first song, in Love Me That Way, I knew I wanted to do something in Spanish, but I was like a bit nervous. I was like, oh, it's my first song. So like, let me just put a bit. So I made the bridge spoken in Spanish, like
Mm,
something super romantic. And I was like, that's a good start. And then in the second song, I kind of did the same. Like I did like one line and then another line in Spanish. So then in and then in the third song as well. So I was still a little
mm,
bit like, I think I was just being shy about it because I was like, obviously I'm fluent in Spanish. I've been speaking since I was like, I think I learned when I was about 3 years old because my
mm,
auntie came from Colombia to live with us and she didn't speak any English and she was
mm,
helping take care of me whilst my mom was working. So I spoke to her in Spanish like my whole life, but it's still my second language. So I think I was just feeling shy. I was like, I don't want to make a mistake. I definitely have made mistakes in my grammar and stuff, but whatever. It's cute. It's part of the
yeah.
process. But I was just a bit shy. But then after my third song, I was like, I've always loved Latin music. I've always listened to Latin music my whole life, at home with my family. And I don't know, like I just felt like really inspired. And I want to make a bachata. Like I was listening to bachata at the time. I was like, I want to make a bachata. And then I remember my uncle got me a little MIDI keyboard for
Mm,
Christmas. And then I opened it, and then on Christmas Day, I was just like chilling and I was in my room. And then like towards the evening when everyone was getting ready to go to bed, I was like, I'm gonna make a bachata right now. And then I did the bass, I did the guitar, I did the melodies, I built like a really solid demo, which is why I have
mm,
like co-producer credits on Call Me by Your Name, because
yeah.
I like built the beat and was very like, this is what I want. This I like kind of designed the beat. I was like, this is what I want this guitar to sound like. These are the guitar melodies, this is
Yeah.
the bass melodies, and then some of my bass is still in there as well. And then I and then I just did like the half English, half Spanish bachata. It really just like poured out of me. Like when I'm writing, it's very much an element of just, it's kind of almost like word vomit. Like it just
Mm.
comes out. And I very rarely ever even like edit my lyrics or change
Oh.
them. I actually always tend to leave my lyrics as they are when they come out because I get very attached to them, and I think it takes like it takes me a moment or a while to like, you know, get to that point. And when I've gotten to the point where it's all coming out, it's actually because like that's what like I guess my soul wanted to say. So
Mm-hmm.
it all poured out in the moment, and then yeah, wrote the song, worked on it with the producer further.
Wow.
And then from that point, like I just loved writing in Spanish. And then I really fell in love with writing in Spanish. Properly, and just kept practicing, and knew that I wanted to bring that song, and like it coming out the way that it did, even though back then it hadn't seen so much like attention or success. I just really loved the song so much, and um I kind of again showed myself that I can do it. So yeah, so I just continued doing it, and I was like, okay, cool, I've tried it, I'm happy with the results, and I'm gonna keep pushing and keep trying to do more and more Latin stuff and more stuff in Spanish. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of how I got to doing more bachatas and singing more in Spanish.
Yeah, which is crazy because Call Me by Your Name has over 2 million listeners.
it's
So it's
it's crazy.
crazy. How
I
how
know
is
it's
that?
crazy.
Yeah, how was
um
that experience?
that experience is just like wild because when I released it like a probably more than a year ago now, but like when it went viral, I had released it like a year ago. So for it to
Hmm.
go viral a year after release was crazy because
Yeah.
I've been posting it this whole time. And like I've been active on TikTok for so long. Like you don't know how many TikTok accounts I've had for different
Wow.
things, how many times I've tried to like post every single day and then always stopped. And then this was the first time that I actually posted every single day for like months and months. And then I don't know if it was like 3 or 4 months. I don't know if it was 6 months. It's all a blur, but like a significant amount of time. And then it got to a point where I had like, oh my God, I was like, oh my God, this video is getting so many views. What the hell?
Mm.
And then it was for Call Me by Your Name. It was actually because one of my family members was like, "Oh, Sophie, like, you know, your bachata, like, it's so good. Like, you should post that online." And I was like, "I have for the past year," but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna do it. It must have been like a message from a divine message from God, like being like,
Mm.
you know, pushing that idea. And I saw this like CapCut template on TikTok of like John Cena, and he's like this and he's like
Hmm.
dancing. And so I just put like the album cover behind. I put POV, you're listening to an indie bachata by a British Latina. And then it was like an 8-second clip. And then I just suddenly started getting so many views on TikTok. Eventually it got to like, I think it finished at around 1.2 million. Um, and then I posted another one, and it was like a video of me in this show, but like again with the same sound. Um, I think a different caption, I can't remember. Um, and then that one went viral like faster, like it got, I think got like 1.4 million. And then I
Oh,
kept posting it, and it kept getting so many views on TikTok, like even if it was like 500K or something like that.
yeah.
So I was like, wow. And then like the support that I received was just so incredible because like suddenly all these wonderful people were just sharing so much love. They were so kind, they were so sweet, and they were listening, they were posting with it, like they really hopped on it and vibed with it, which was so amazing. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's like a dream come true. And then so then the streams suddenly like shot up. It was like 20K streams a day, and I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, what the hell? And then like Rosalia followed me on TikTok,
Oh
and I
shit.
almost fainted. I was like in the supermarket. I don't know if you guys have Lidl in the US. Do you guys have
No.
Lidl? I think, do you guys have Aldi? I feel like I've
Yeah.
seen an Aldi. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's kind of similar to Lidl. I think they have a similar logo as well. But like we have Lidl. It was the Lidl, one of the Lidls in London, and it's like I'm not even gonna say anything about the supermarket, but it's like I was in the cheese aisle and then I was getting something for my mum. She was like at the till. And then I swear, like I almost screamed like in the middle of
Oh
the
my God.
cheese. I was like, like I did this big gasp because I saw like, you know, when someone follows you back on TikTok and you can suddenly like message them. And I was like,
Mhm.
"La Rosalia," like, or like her TikTok handle. I was like, oh my God. And then I ran back to tell her mum and I called my boyfriend. I was like posting on Instagram. I was like, I can't believe it. It's crazy. So yeah, anyway, sorry,
Oh, that no,
sidetrack. But
that's an
but
achievement
yeah,
right there.
I was so honored. And so yeah, so I just kept posting and then, you know, the streams were still so healthy every day, even after like the like initial viral moment hyped, like kind of died down a bit, but then, you know, still getting good numbers when I was
Yeah.
posting it. Like so many people posted videos. There were so many like gorgeous girls like looking and feeling fabulous to the song, which really like warmed my heart. And then yeah, and then recently I posted it on Instagram. When I posted on Instagram at the time, it also did really good numbers. And then a few weeks ago, did like a few months ago, did numbers as well on Instagram. But then my most recent post got like 3.8 million views on Instagram, which is more than I'd ever gotten. So that was crazy. So that's, I think, what bumped the streams up to 2 million faster because
Yeah.
I just got really lucky. And yeah, I was, the whole process has been like a whirlwind, but I'm very happy. I'm proud of myself. I'm grateful to Len, who's the producer that I worked on the song with, because he did an amazing job. Like he literally like got my vision down to a T. Like he completely understood what I was looking for and did a beautiful job on the music. And yeah, everyone who was involved, I'm grateful to. But I was so happy that that happened
Yeah.
and just proud of myself that with a bit of perseverance and consistency, especially
Consistent. Yep.
or what did it was literally just the consistency. I think like posting every day, like
Yeah.
forcing myself to post every day, even if I was reposting or posting rubbish, I was still posting, and so that counts for something. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, for sure, for sure. And that consistency is like nobody would I yeah, you wouldn't have expected like a year after to get so
yeah,
much such a big track in your song, but like it happened and it's like maybe that was
yeah,
just it's like respecting the time of like when things happen. As like
yeah, for
supporting that
sure.
patience. I want to talk about your newest song, 3 a.m.
Oh yeah.
How is that process? How were there any
Um,
obstacles? Were there like yeah, how was all that experience?
there were a few obstacles in the sense that like I made my demo and I was like super attached to my demo, which was essentially what you hear now is basically just the demo with like a tiny weeny bit of bass and then some like vocal like a bass occasionally and then vocal production. So for me, I was like very attached to the demo. I went through a few processes of like trying to get it produced in different ways and then wasn't really like feeling the new production because I just really felt like this song was perfect for just the guitar and vocals. I was like,
Mm,
I just feel like the story and the lyrics need to be able to shine. And for that, we just need the guitar loop, which is basically just like it's just a
mm,
splice loop that I found and wrote to. And, you know, I could have made it like a bigger production. I could have made it a reggaeton or another bachata, but I
yeah.
just fell in love with the story of the song and with the
Mm,
vocal melodies, which they switch up in every single verse and like
yeah.
even the choruses switch up. So I was like, I think we've got enough that melodically to keep it entertaining and the lyrics as well. I don't think we need so much production. So obviously those are obstacles because you're working with people, you're working with producers. You don't want to let anyone down,
Mm,
but you don't want to like, but then you have to do what's best for the song and like you can't sacrifice the song for the sake of like, you know, people pleasing or like, you know, you just
yeah.
have to prioritize a song. And at the end of the day, if it happens all the time, like you know, I've heard like labels, you know, sometimes people just go for the demo. If the demo had the magic and then you try out the production, sometimes you just go for the for what was on the demo. So I just took the demo to a producer. I was like, just work on the vocals, like keep the guitar the same and let's do it like that. So yeah, there were a couple obstacles on the way, a bit of like uncertainty on what to do on my part. But it worked out in the end because I managed to release the song. So that's good.
Yeah, you mentioned the like people pleasing and especially when them having their voice in like how you produce your music and the creativity
Yeah.
behind that. And it reminded me, I don't know if you watched the Louis Capaldi documentary in
Oh, I haven't
Netflix.
seen it
No,
actually.
that for me was crazy. And it's crazy how the pressure of like not only like the people you're working with like producing the song and helping you out, but like the audience, like the fans also like
Yeah.
that pressure of wanting to give out the best that you can. And for him, like it turned out manifested into like his I believe his Tourette's syndrome, Tourette's. Yeah, just
Oh
Tourette's.
yeah.
So for you, have you dealt with that you say like pressure or that people pleasing and like being able to like set your boundaries and being like, okay, like this is what I want, this is I'm not gonna do this, stuff like that.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And I think, like, as a young woman, we can often get imposter syndrome and we can
Yeah.
often feel like we have to over explain ourselves. And I definitely like over apologize and I definitely over explain. Like, someone else with more experience or like a man in the industry might feel more comfortable to just be like, nope, sorry, don't like it, moving ahead with a different plan. Or like, if you have like a manager, they might do that for you. Or if you've got a label, they might be like, no, don't like it, we're going to go for another route, and then that's on them. Like, the artist doesn't really get the heat for that. But like, when you're defending yourself, managing yourself and fighting on your own behalf, like, you're trying to keep all your relationships pure and like healthy, but then you also have to prioritize the song and the business. And I think as a young woman, like, that can be super challenging, considering like the limitations that are placed upon us as young women, and like making space for ourselves in the industry and making our name. Like, it's hard, just the
Yeah.
usual problems that we have. But I don't let any of that like get in my way. I just try my best, and if I over apologize, so what? I over apologize. Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I was just trying to be polite. So
Yeah.
there's no issue with over apologizing either. Like, if you do it, it's fine, but the most important thing is to prioritize the music and your song, because that's the most important thing, whilst respecting everybody and
Hmm.
always acting in a respectful and professional manner.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah, because that helps with like your you get your reputation. Like you want people to
Yeah.
see that you're respectful and like however people treat you, that like that's on them. But like
Yeah,
I know like my truth, you could say. Um,
exactly. Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about like budgeting and like because I mean personally, I've never met an artist. I've done an interview. I don't know if you heard of Cassandra. She's
Yeah,
like they below and
I
yeah.
love her. She's amazing. I love all her TikTok content as well. I followed her on TikTok like ages ago, and she's so good.
Yeah, she's doing great things too right now. And yeah, I forgot what my question was gonna be. Oh, the artist life. So
Yeah.
how do you, as an artist, how do you know what you have to do, especially like financially? Like, how do you do that? I mean, you have your song, I believe it was Fine, where you did a music video. Like,
Yeah.
how was that? Like, how did that? We could even talk about like how was that experience, and then like
Yeah.
financially, how was the budgeting, and then we talk a bit more
Yeah.
about like the artist life and what it means to be
Yeah.
a successful artist.
That's a really good question. And I think that's something that's like always really valuable to discuss and like be aware of as an artist, the financial aspect. So I work full time, to be quite honest. Like, I have
Oh wow.
another job, and that obviously gets hard juggling. Like, my mental capacity like
Yeah.
gets filled because I'm using all my brain power on work, and sometimes I come home, I don't have enough for music, and so I can't
Yeah.
write as much as I want to. However, I'm really fortunate that I really love my job, and I have a really wonderful team that I work with. I have a great office, and like I've had so many bad experiences with other workplaces and
Mm.
other jobs,
Yeah.
and I was always disappointed or treated badly. And I think I went through all of those things so I could really appreciate the job that I have now. So like, big up the company that I work for, because I love them, and they're super supportive of my music as well. So I'm very grateful to that. But I must say, like, having a day job is key in helping me finance my music. Like, otherwise I wouldn't be able to. Like, there are many people who are fortunate that they don't have to work, or they have like a better financial situation, or like their family does and can support them and help them, which by all means take advantage of that if you got it. Like, don't let that stop you. Like, that's amazing. But if you don't, like, you know, you have to work full time, really, or part time, or whatever you need. But yeah, working full time, to be quite to totally honest, like, that helps me finance my music. At the beginning, when you're not getting any streams and stuff, or you're getting very small streams, you don't really see money from your music. You have to be like really crafty about how you make money. But I think artists, which I've learned this year, artists need to know that there's actually more ways to make money on your music than people tell us. So like, I've recently been learning about like money that you can make from sync placements, so like TV, film, ads and stuff. I've been looking into that. And someone told me the other day that you should get paid for a song, I think it was like 3 times. So a lot of us only just register to PRS. That was me back in the day. But you also got to register to other places, like for example in the UK, got to register to PPL, the Song Trust. There's other ways that you make money on the songwriting, and then you make money on the master side. Like, I could go into it so much. I need to learn more about it because I still don't know enough. But like, I've been finding out that, so like, I would say if anyone's watching who's an artist and they're just starting, like, it's not just PRS that you get paid from. Make sure you're getting paid from on the master side, on the songwriting side. There's so many other things. There's like stuff called like neighboring rights, which I still need to do more research on. And then so there's like publishing, there's the master, there's like sync. There's so many different ways that you can get paid. Doing gigs is good for getting paid. Usually when you're like a smaller artist, the fee is quite small and just about covers like your Uber there or anything like that. But it's still good to do them, because the more gigs you do, the better the pay will become, and like as you go on. And it's just a really good way to meet people as well, and gain new fans. So yeah, in terms of like finances and budgeting, I think, there's definitely money that I've just like wasted, and there's definitely like, I haven't kept as good track of my finances as I should have. Like, I would say, if you're going to register for self-employment, or you're thinking about it, like, keep all your receipts, including like the outfit that you buy for the gig or something like that. You can look into whether that can count as an expense. And also, like, even if you're not going to register self-employed, I think it's good to like keep track of how much you're spending on your music, and then how much you're making, and then try and make some changes. Just helps put things into perspective. So that's something like I hope to start doing more of as well. And in terms of like for music videos and stuff and executing ideas, I would say that I've been lucky that as I was like growing up and going to uni and stuff, like, I've always had a love of fashion and interest in fashion, and I've worked a bit in fashion, done a bit of modeling as well, and gotten to know through that people in fashion, and specifically Latinos who work in fashion in London. So that is like been so helpful, because I would say that those shoots that I went to were literally the stepping stone for me meeting people in the UK Latin music scene and other people, and it was just such a domino effect of like meeting people that helped me do those music videos. So like, for example, I did that music video for Fine with all the girls. All those girls were just like my friends that I invited. I basically just invited all of my friends, and the girls that could make it that day came. And yeah, we made that music video, which I love it so much. I look back so fondly on it. And they're all my friends, so they all came for free. I just provided food and snacks and drinks. And we had a really lovely day, all of us together. And then the videographer, I paid him a fee and negotiated a fee based on like what I could afford at the time, and he was super understanding of that because we were also friends. And I had met him just through like events or like shoots and stuff. Actually, I think I met him through another friend. So I think definitely I would say like network with people,
Yeah.
get to know people with the same interests as you and in the same kind of profession as you, and then try and collaborate. I think collaboration is so key when you're at an early stage of your career, because it's like I help you, you help me, we're going to grow together, and then also stay loyal to those friendships, because um people love when you like take them along for the ride, and they
Hmm.
really will value that and appreciate that. And it's also a nice thing to do. It's good karma. Like it's like if someone helped you when no one else believed in you, like you gotta respect them for that, and like share you gotta share that love with them. So I think it's like, yeah, it's super important for
Yeah,
sure.
no, for yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
you've also done a documentary a while back, or
Yeah.
I don't remember when it was, but you definitely did a documentary. So I want to talk about talk a bit about that, and then also your performances, because you mentioned you've performed in some places. So yeah, let's talk about the documentary first. Like, how was that experience? How did it happen? And like maybe
Yeah.
what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so that was a documentary for Anciella, who is a Colombian designer in London.
Okay.
They're an amazing brand. The woman who runs it is incredible. She's so lovely as well. So this is like where the web begins, like the web of people. So I might as well just skip context of like how I met all these people and how this helped my music. There's an artist called Desta French who
Mm,
is like a huge UK Latina, and she's been doing it for a really long time. And like she kind of, I feel like personally, like she put UK Latin music on the map, and
mm,
she has always gotten like, she does amazing shows, she has really cool fans, and like she makes incredible music in English and Spanish, like with like a
wow.
Latin feel, Latin genre. So she's incredible, and I've been a fan of hers since I was like about 18. Like before she was doing
Wow.
Latin music, like I loved her other stuff as well. And then when I found out she was Colombian, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So then she did a photo shoot for Indie magazine, and then a friend of mine who was in the shoot was like, oh Sophie, like we need another model, come down. And she had a shoot where she had all of these Latinas, and it was really lovely. So I met a bunch of Latinas there. I met her there, which was lovely because I was like a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
And then um and then from there, Anciella kind of used that photo shoot to scout models for
Mm.
another shoot that they did. So I met another one of the girls again who I'd met there, Jessica, who's a friend of mine. And then yeah, and so that's kind of how I started connecting. And then at the Anciella shoot, which was so much fun and really like editorial and high fashion, so I
Oh,
like
wow.
loved it. It was really nice. We met more people. I met the stylist, the photographer, who are two Venezuelan women, Danny, Silvana, and they're amazing. Um, and they do a lot for like the Latin community here in the UK, and like
Wow.
really cool stuff. And then from there, they organized a shoot with Vogue Italia, and they had like
Oh.
us Latinos it was about called Comadres, which is about, it was about like Latin women and like female icons in Latin culture. So I was the quinceañera, so I had this like pink dress. It was such a cool shoot, and it was an amazing opportunity for us as well. And so I kind of like kept meeting everyone. And then Anciella, when they did their documentary, they asked me to be in it again,
Mm.
be in that shoot. And then I got to like sing, model, talk a bit in the documentary, and that's kind of how that came about. And it was a really amazing process. Like I really enjoyed the whole experience.
Yeah, I know that, and that sounds so cool. Like when I saw, it, I was like, "Oh, I need to watch this." It's so awesome, and the
Yeah,
networking part too. Like it's how important it is, because if you would have had met or put yourself out there to like be in these shoots and like meet these people, like you never would
yeah,
have been in this documentary. So yeah, that's
it
important
was
networking.
it was good. And it's funny because like the first shoot with Desta French, like I actually had food poisoning that week, and I was
Oh
working in a
no.
I know. I was working in a pub, and I got food poisoning in the pub. And then I was like, couldn't go into work. And then I wasn't allowed to go to work as well, because obviously food, and then I had food poisoning. So it was
Yeah.
like a hygiene issues. They were like, don't come back until you get a note from the doctor saying that you're
Okay.
well. And but then my friend was like, do you want to come to this shoot? And I was like, well, I still feel sick, but like I'm gonna come because I'm not gonna be around food, and I'm a huge fan of Desta. So I kind of got in trouble at work for that, but then it was so worth it because
Yeah.
it led to all of this.
So many things, yeah. So many opportunities. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
there was your performances as well.
Yeah.
How is that like? How was your first performance, and then like how yeah, how was your first performance, and then how has it evolved? Like because then there's also like that presence. There's like a character I believe you have to have in just like being a good performer type of thing. So
Yeah.
how is that learning experience?
So I had done like, I think whilst I was at uni, I did like 2 acoustic shows.
Hmm.
So those were really nice. But then when I, like, after COVID and everything, and I released a few songs, then I did my first performance of like my new stuff in Brixton at the Ritzy. And
Hmm.
that was with Lost World, and they invited me to perform. And so I was like, oh my God, like they want me to sing. I was so happy. I was so nervous. And I think even throughout the whole performance, I was really nervous. And I was surprised because obviously I'd had all this experience performing when I was younger on stage, and I never used to get nervous. So I was like, why am I nervous now?
Hmm.
And I think it's because I was singing my own song. So it felt a lot more raw and a lot more vulnerable. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
damn. So then, but then, the next performance, then I felt more confident. And then the next performance, I felt more confident. And then I just started to really enjoy it. And then, I just kept doing shows and, wherever I could, whenever someone would reach out and ask me to. And then recently I did, actually, I think it must have been last week or the week before. Yeah, the week before last week, I opened for Desta French. So the artist
Oh
that
wow.
huge
You
fan
love
of,
the
because
shoot.
now we met a few more times, like even at these shoots and stuff, we got to know each other. And she's a lovely, lovely girl. Like we're friends now. And yeah, so she asked me to open for her show. And of
Hmm.
course I was like, I manifested this moment because I always wanted to like work with her, and I always wanted to open for her because it was like she's incredible. So I'm very proud that I got to do that, and super honored and happy that she asked me to. And that was my first time performing with a live band, and the band were
Oh
incredible.
wow.
um they did such an amazing job, and we all connected like through socials, or like somehow we connected. And yeah, and it was so much fun. So now, like that I've played with a band, I know that for sure playing with a band is so much fun, and it's even more fun than with backing tracks. So I definitely want to continue doing that. And I think, practice makes perfect. Like I really enjoy performing, and I've gotten good feedback from performances, but I definitely still want to improve. I want to work on my like dancing and movement. And yeah,
Yeah.
want to definitely keep going.
Yeah. And with the when you collaborate with like performing in these places, is that you are you like getting paid for that, or is it like collabing and then like being able to expand your music to other audiences? Or how does
It
that work?
literally it literally just depends. So at the beginning, like sometimes I was not paid for shows, and sometimes I was paid like a really, really small amount. One time I was paid, but like half of the ticket sales. Like sometimes they
Mm,
don't pay you, and like it just really depends. Like, a lot of people will be like, you need to get paid. But I've always been very much like, well, I know it's annoying when people say, oh, like it's for exposure, but then, and obviously the venue's making money, the promoter's making money, but then it's kind of like at that point I was like, well, I do need the exposure, and I do value that, and they were all really good experiences. So I thought personally it was worth it. I think after a while, when you get to a certain point, you need to start getting paid for your shows, especially like when you're working, and because sometimes you do end up spending, like for example, even getting there, getting home, like if it's really late, you have to take a cab, and
yeah.
like you don't want to take the tube. It just really depends. So I think you need to at least recoup what you've spent. And sometimes even like, so now I know, for example, if I wasn't going to get paid for a show, I'm not going to buy like a brand new outfit. I'm not gonna like get a designer to send me an outfit, because I'm just going to use what I have at home. Because so I'm trying to view it in that way, that like if they're going to pay, then I give them the full, like, I'll get a
Mm,
band, I'll get um I'll get like a stylist, or I'll make something to wear, or I'll buy something to
Yeah.
wear, and do the makeup and everything. I mean, I'm not going to do makeup or hair, but like I said, like I'll get someone to do makeup, like I'll do the whole like shebang. But
Yeah,
then if
yeah.
it's unpaid, then I'll come in like an outfit that I have, like I'll style something. I'm not going to pay out of pocket for a band. So I think it's just about being understanding, open, and then clever about like, okay, cool, I'm not getting paid, but like how do I make it so that this doesn't end up me paying a lot of money out of pocket to play? You don't
Mm,
want to like pay to play. You want to either just
yeah.
recoup or like not spend, or you want to make money and then you can invest in like putting on an
Yeah.
even better and bigger show.
Okay. And then with the going back a bit with like the artist life, how I went, what are other ways? Because you mentioned like with the, with, was it the, you said P something 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 for like when you monetize your music and songwriting and all
Oh
that.
yeah,
But
PPL.
then
Yeah.
P, yeah, there we go. And then how, what are other things that artists can do? Like have you done like brand collaborations to kind of help you monetize stuff like that? And then
Yeah.
like how do you become, I guess, like, or what would be your definition of becoming like a successful artist?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In terms of brand partnerships, I did do one recently with Splice. They
Okay.
reached out to me for Latin Heritage Month, and they asked me to make like a 60-second track using their samples from Splice, and then make a video about the
Yeah.
process. And that was really good pay. And like that was really exciting for me because it was kind of like my first brand deal in terms of
Mm,
like for socials and stuff. So I was really honored and super excited. Um, so yeah, that was, yeah, I've done one of those. I definitely want to do more, and I'm kind of trying to figure out how to do more, like in talks with some, I'm in
mm,
talks with some people. 100%, like if you can do brand deals, definitely do them. And a lot of days people are looking for like micro influencers as well, so you don't have to have like
yeah.
thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. I think there's always a way, like there's always a way. I've had other people reach out about something. Sometimes brands want to like send you something. I think just like building a good relationship with brands and other creatives is really good, because you don't know, like maybe in you might be friends with like a designer and then always support them and you really like their work, and then maybe they blow up, and then, or maybe you blow up and then
Yeah.
you
Help each
help
other
each
out.
other. So it's
Yeah.
always good to have those relationships and be open to those kinds of partnerships.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just like networking and connections and building those
Yeah,
relationships for
yeah,
sure.
and even for like, for example, for modeling, I've done a lot of shoots, like a lot of unpaid shoots, because I genuinely like really enjoy photo shoots. Like I love getting like glammed up and like doing the whole pictures thing. I
Yeah.
just find it super fun, and you always have a really good time on set. And I've been very lucky that every shoot's been really fun, and I've always met lovely, lovely people. Like I met my best friend shooting for her brand, and she,
Oh
so that
wow.
was amazing. And I met like my other best friend who was modeling that day as well, and like we stayed friends because we
Wow.
just had such a fun time. So you never know who you're going to meet. And then also like doing photo shoots is great, even just for modeling, because then you have pictures, and like if you're not getting paid, it's, it's up to you if you want to accept that or not. I was always open to do free shoots, but then you get all those pictures for free. You don't have to then pay a
Mm,
photographer for your photo shoot. So it's really good for like when you're a bit like low on budget, or
yeah.
you could ask the brand, can I use this photo for my album cover? And if they say yeah, and well, you ask the photographer and the brand, and you, or probably just the brand, depending on like what agreement they have and who owns the copyright of the photo, I guess you could ask them, can I use that for my album cover? Can I use it for this? It really works with the vibe. And yeah,
Yeah.
just, and then you also meet photographers and you meet brands. And
Yeah.
let's say like, I know like with my friend Millie who owns Minx, that's the name of her brand, she has beautiful clothes. She always loans me stuff
Mm,
for shows, like for
yeah.
anything I need, and I know I can always collaborate with her. And we just met at that shoot. She casted me for the shoot, and then we just became
Wow.
friends. So it
Friends.
was, those are really good opportunities to like do that kind of stuff for your music as well.
Yeah, for sure. That connections, that networking is super, super important.
Yeah.
Before, because we're almost at time, before we end and before I ask you my last two questions, is there anything, either like advice for artists who are just starting out or just like in general, maybe like lessons that you've learned that you wish you would have learned earlier, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Anything that you want to mention before I ask you my last question?
Yeah, there's a few actually. Like I think number one is definitely trust your gut. There's been situations that I've been in where like my gut has been telling me like don't trust that person or don't go
Mm,
for this, but because of kind of like sometimes you can feel like that desperation of like I want my dream to happen, I want this to happen, and you ignore red flags and you just hope for the best and you're like I'll deal with it
yeah.
later. Like no, deal with it now. And if you can't come to an agreement with that person, it's because that opportunity was not meant for you. So following on from that, second advice would be let go of like don't be frustrated when something doesn't work out because
Mhm.
that opportunity wasn't meant for you. And like I think letting go of things, people, energy, situations is something that I personally have to like work on in my life. Like I think that's one of my like life lessons on this earth,
Yeah.
learning the art of letting go. That's something I'm trying to work on. I've definitely needed to work on more in the past and still need to work on. There was so many times where I was attached to songs or like didn't want to give up on things that were unhealthy or like um not situations that were actually not healthy for me or were causing me a lot of stress, people. And you have to stand up for yourself. And if something doesn't work out, like don't see it as a reflection of you. Just know that like that wasn't in God's plan. Like it wasn't meant for you. And something, and you like still having gratitude in your heart will be rewarded. Like just be grateful
Yeah.
that you didn't have to be in a situation that wasn't meant for you, and then something better is going to come along. Something better always comes along, like
Yeah.
100% of the time. And then the next thing is just test out test everything out. Like test out relationships. Like you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket.
Hmm.
You don't have to feel pressured to commit to anybody just because they promise you the world or they say I'm doing you a huge favor. Don't, if someone's agreed to help you, don't let them guilt trip you into doing what they say because they've done you a huge favor. You know your worth because they've not done you a favor. They approached you to
Hmm.
work with you, even if it's on the basis of a collaboration. They approached you, they want to work with you. You're also putting love and energy into that partnership. So no one's doing each other's favors. You're working collaboratively. So don't let
Yeah.
people like have that power over you. Like you're also worth so much and you're worth people wanting to work with you. You're not in debt to anyone unless you literally
Yes.
owe them money. So like unless you owe the bank money or something, you're not in debt. So don't stress about that. Just I think treat everybody fairly, like navigate with good intentions,
Yep.
and honesty as much as you can. And then like your conscience is clear. And then yeah, just test out relationships because you never know. Like there's always a honeymoon phase with every partnership
Yeah.
with you got to test it out and make sure that you're protected, that there's a fallback plan, there's a plan B, and that there's clauses that mean that like if something doesn't work out, everybody gets their piece and everyone's satisfied. And get things in writing
Yeah.
because it's always
Mm,
better than verbal agreement.
yes. For sure. No, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for those that advice. I was gonna say consejos in Spanish. Like, no, this is not, this is in English.
Consejos, sí. No,
But
yeah, I've learned all these things like in the past year. I think this year has been the year of learning. So I'm
yeah.
fresh off the boat of learning things.
No, and there's still more learning to come too. So
For sure,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, we're never
Bring
we
it
never stop
on.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no. And yeah, my last two questions. So my first one will be with this whole journey that you've done, what were those like logros, those achievements where like Sophie from like a few years ago, or even like looking back at your inner child type of thing, and what were those logros that or those achievements that you're like, holy crap, I can't believe this happened, and it's like this is exciting. And it could be small, big, like what's meaningful to you, but for you, they're like, holy crap.
I think like the last gig that I did for many reasons. Number one, because like, well, not number one, but like one of them is because I was playing with a band.
Mm,
Another was that I was opening for an artist that I've admired for years and now get to work with her on music. And like
mm,
for me, that isn't it. She's like the first artist that I've gotten to work with who I've been a fan of. So like for me, that's super exciting.
mm,
And like I felt that I really did my all in that show. I got really good feedback, so that was like a very proud moment for me, and like I really enjoyed the process. And then also just like the success with Call Me by Your Name. Like I think having people message me, and also like some of the messages that people have been sending me have been like specifically just like really heartwarming. Like for example, like I've had a few girls message me saying that they are really happy to see someone with like indigenous features
Mm.
working on music, and like, you know, a POC Latina like
Yeah.
doing music and like striving for the mainstream, and like, you know, making a name for herself, because there's not a lot of representation for
Yeah.
us in mainstream the mainstream media and mainstream like TV films and stuff, that even telenovelas, like there's
Yeah.
not that much representation for us. So to hear that girls were coming to me and feeling that like made me really emotional and feel very like appreciated, and also like my felt very like heartwarming, because I was like, wow, like it makes me feel like I'm doing more than just like
You
singing my
were.
songs and making the music. It's like I'm glad that I'm helping a young girl feel seen and valued and appreciated. So I definitely want to like talk more about that, like in my career, champion more of those girls. So those moments where I received those messages were really heartwarming, and then all the other messages of support, and then seeing people like dancing to the song in like bachata classes as well was
Oh
so cute.
wow.
I was like, yay. And then in like clubs, that's really, really exciting. And that's something that I feel like little Sophie would have been so like excited to see. And yeah, those are just a few of
Yeah, no,
the
thank you for
moments.
sharing. That's awesome. And that what you mentioned with the representation, I think that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast too, like to share the stories of like these amazing individuals, like your story, and say like si se puede, like we can do it,
Yeah,
no merecemos. So I'm really glad you
thanks.
were here and mentioned that part because that's really really important.
Thank you.
Um, my last question, and I still every time I ask this question, I can't believe like this conversation is like almost over, but like time goes so quick.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
my last question would be for especially it's mostly for like those who are listening or listening watching, and they're like they believe que no se lo merecen, like they don't deserve this that, or like they want to start something but they don't like they want to start a hobby, they want to start a project, they want to start a podcast, they want to be an artist and like start writing music and releasing their song, you know, anything, a business, wherever it is, but they feel like no se lo merecen. What advice, strategy, tip, actionable step, anything that you think it's important for them to like know and like for them to understand like si te lo mereces, you do deserve it, but you gotta do
Yeah.
this, like what would that be?
Um, I would just say like, so it's a question like, what's your advice for people to like motivate them
To
basically when they
motivate
feel
them
like
pretty much,
that?
yeah.
Honestly, like I would say, like kind of like what we said at the beginning, like it's much better to fail having tried than to not try at
Yeah.
all. And like I know that's super cliche, and every probably postcard says it, and every like motivational person and
Yeah.
card says it, but it's actually so true. And like I feel like I've lived that in my experience, because you know it's really daunting, because especially when you have a dream that's so like people facing and like public facing,
Mm-hmm.
that it's like everybody's going to know if you tried and everyone's going to know if you failed. That's so daunting, because we care about
Yeah.
what other people think, we care about people's opinions, which is fair enough. But you know, you got to just do it anyway. Like don't ever feel embarrassed, because people, if anyone was to mock you, it's because they're jealous that they're not doing it themselves, because like you
Yeah.
have no reason to mock someone who's trying their best. And like, sorry, this is like a long-winded answer,
No,
but
you good.
essentially what I'm saying is like, just don't be afraid of failure, because you're not failing if you tried, because you're still
Yeah.
gaining valuable experiences no matter what the outcome is, and you're still living your life like how life is supposed to be lived, which is like to the fullest. So keep trying. Don't let anyone convince you that you can't do it by yourself. You can do it by yourself, and then slowly building a team of trustworthy, keyword,
Yeah.
trustworthy people, honest and loyal people around you with great ideas who you can collaborate with. By yourself you can definitely start, and then when you build, and also don't worry, like those people will come. At the beginning I used to think, oh my god, I don't even have any friends who do music, I don't have,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the people that I know who do music, they aren't willing to share or willing to help me, and I feel really alone. But I'm just gonna I have that's why we have Google. I was like, I'll just Google it myself. I have Instagram, I can go on SoundCloud, I can look for producers. I feel like where there's a will, there's a way. So
Mm.
just try, do as much research as you can, and just like take that first leap of faith, and you will show yourself that you can actually do it. And yeah, don't ever let anyone make you feel like you can't. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I just kind of forgot.
Oh, you're good. I mean, the answer was perfect, and that I'm pretty sure it's gonna help so many people. It's helping me right now, so I appreciate
Thank
that. I
you.
appreciate for that answer. Sophie, thank you so much for being here. Like I still can't believe I have you in the podcast. So I'm just grateful for that moment, or this moment. For those who want to go check out your music, want to go check your social medias, like where can they find you? Where can they go listen? All of that.
Yeah. So on Spotify, it's Sophie Castillo. And then on Instagram and TikTok, it's Sophie Castillo Music.
Okay,
So yeah, it's just that for both of them. And
awesome.
yeah,
So
so
yeah, I'll definitely leave the links below as well, just so like they could go quickly and like follow and listen to your music.
okay.
The bachata ones I definitely recommend. I mean all of
Thank
them,
you.
but bachata right now I gotta learn how to dance. So, um,
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and like it's been really nice to like have this chat and talk about everything. So thank you for inviting me.
no, no problem. Thank you so much. And then for those who are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or an audio version, don't forget to leave a review and leave a comment. There's like the comment section on Spotify. What do you think? What were like those highlights, those key moments, things you learned from Sophie? And then if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, all of that because that's what for the podcast. And yeah, go follow Sophie, go follow her on Spotify, listen to her music. And with that being said, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Sophie, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.